right, here we go with something a little different. This has been sponsored by Klaus. I'm going to be doing several of these videos. Basically, these are video essays on One Piece. Now, just so you know, I feel very strongly about what I'm going to say, and nothing's going to change my mind. This is just one of my core values. This is just what I believe. But I believe it's wrong to use the content of a small content creator without their permission. I just think it's wrong. Like these channels that do reactions to videos, like, say I did like comedy shorts or something. Like it's just me, right? With my $5, I'm doing comedy shorts. I think it's wrong to do a reaction to those comedy shorts because I'm a small time creator. I'm not a $1 billion production company, $1 billion studio. I don't think it's wrong to do reactions to $1 billion studio or any other kind of thing where, like, there's also the other kind of reaction video, which is, video essays like EFAP and some of these other people, that will listen to what you say, respond to it, play some more of what you say, respond to it, play some more of what you say, respond to it. Like, I just think it's wrong. You're using this without the permission. They argue, and they just feel differently about this. They argue this is free promotion, and it probably is. But for me, there's just a difference between using content without somebody's permission when they are $1 billion company and they'll never notice. They'll never even notice this. And a small time creator who will notice it. Like, I just think it's disrespectful. So I'm not going to do it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to watch, there's 3 of these essays. I'm going to watch them, and then I will pause when there's something noteworthy to say. I will regurgitate what they said, and then give my reaction to that. So it's kind of like an essay on an essay, if you would. Now, what's interesting about these first 2 is this is actually a channel I like. It's called Super Eye Patch Wolf. He's got 1.5 million subscribers. I say small. For me, small is anything below a production company, like a Hollywood production company. But he's doing pretty. He probably actually would never notice. But like, this is just what I believe. So But anyway, my point is, Super Eye Patch Wolf, I've watched a lot of his essays on other shows. I tend to avoid shows I think there's a possibility of me watching. But Klaus has assured me, he's a huge One Piece fan. And he's assured me that watching these essays are not going to ruin my experience. So I'm assuming there won't be any like massive spoilers that would just be like, oh my god, Luffy dies in episode 50. In the last 950 episodes, he's not in it, right? Like, I assume we're not in for something like that, right? So I have a feeling this is just going to recontextualize some things, maybe make me think things in a different way, which I'm open to. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into this. He also likes Hunter x Hunter, apparently. So he does Hunter x Hunter videos. I guess I'm going to have to go back and look at those. I never realized he did Hunter x Hunter videos. I'm trying to think of what does he do that I actually watch. Oh, I remember. Riverdale and What the Internet Did to Garfield. Those are 2 brilliant videos. Absolutely brilliant videos. That's the 2 I've seen. So, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I may have seen others. But I went back and was looking at, you see the red line when you watch something. Those are the 2 I know for sure I've seen. But, if he's done Hunter x Hunter videos, I'm going to have to go back and check those out. I'm very interested in that, actually. Assuming he isn't going to ruin, like, I guess a new manga came out. Assuming he isn't going to ruin that, like, as long as he doesn't do that. Yeah, he's talking about how long the series is and, like, how can you talk about something that has... And, when did this video come out? Surely they have the date here. I guess because I've got it so compressed I can't see. But anyway, I have a feeling this came out quite a while ago. Because it's over 1,000 now. It's got to be. Did it end up being 1,500? Like, this may be like halfway through the run. Like, but I've made a bunch of jokes about how long it is. I don't have a problem with how long it is. I don't have a problem with how long anything. I don't have a problem with how long Supernatural is. I don't think length should necessarily be the determining factor of whether you should talk about something, whether you should enjoy something. It's what is your experience. Sometimes something being long can actually make you have a better experience with it. Like, for instance, if Supernatural had been canceled at season 5, after season 5, it would have been considered one of the greatest shows ever made. If it had been canceled after season 8, people would be like, oh my god, they would consider it basically like they did X-Files. Awesome series, and man, they really didn't need the last couple seasons. If it had been canceled after season 11, people had their minds blown, like, my god, this is incredible. And then it ended after season 15, and people feel like, well, like they really didn't stick the landing. What's funny is they stuck the landing several times through the course of that series. I realize as I'm talking, I'm kind of talking against my point. Like, it'd been better if it ended after 5 or 11 instead of 15. But still, 11 was fantastic. I really enjoyed 11. So we wouldn't have got 11 if it had ended at 5. Even though we had a couple bad seasons in between. You see what I'm saying? So, like, I don't think just because something's long, you should necessarily judge it for that. He said this has 866 characters. That's after 833 chapters. I do wonder. I don't know how much this I'm going to get through. I may drop dead before we get to the end of this. But how could you possibly keep track of all this? Now, I assume what they do is say that boy from very early on that I thought was going to be part of the crew. Say they bring him back after 200 episodes and it's been a couple years. They would do a flashback and they would show us a quick scene of him. So I'm sure they do that. I think somebody's even told me they do that, right? So I guess that's how you keep track of it, right? You're just in the moment. You got to be in the moment. You can't think about everybody who's not around right now. You just think about the people that are around, and maybe you get a quick refresher or something. Here's another thing that they don't do in anime that they do in American TV shows. In American TV shows, they have a previously on, and they show 15 to 60 seconds of clips from previous episodes to give you context for what you're about to see. I don't think they do that in anime, but they do that in the episode in anime. See, here's the thing. Here's what you may not realize. When you watch the show on the live action broadcast, they show the previously on. Sometimes when you watch on streaming, they don't show the previous on. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's weird how that works. So sometimes that previous on is not actually part of the episode. Your episode runtime is going to still be what it is, no matter what. And when you watch it later, if you watch 10 episodes in a row, you don't see the previously on for those 10 episodes. Now, like I said, I think Buffy, they still show it, but other shows, they don't show it, right? So, I'm especially noticed this with, like, when I get bootlegs of HBO shows. If you watch it on HBO, they show the previous on. If you watch a bootleg, they don't, right? So, because it comes before the HBO, the fuzzy static thing. So, they show it because their previous song is before the HBO fuzzy static thing, which I think that's where the bootlegs start, right? But anyway, so the point is, in American television, the previously on is not considered part of the episode. Whereas in anime, they do what would be a previously on, they do it within the episode. There's no way to remove it. It's part of the episode. I think I like the American version better, because you can be refreshed if you need it, but then if you don't need it, if you're watching a bunch in a row, you don't even have to sit through it. So that's interesting. Wow, really? He did a One Piece? Yeah, he did a One Piece pun. Oh, I see. So I've been told to watch two of these episodes from Wolf, and he just described what they are. The second one is why you should watch or read One Piece. This one is just talking about overall structural elements. So I got you. This one is specifically called The Appeal of One Piece. By the way, there's going to be links to these videos as I do them below if you want to check them out for yourself. And you should if you haven't seen them. He's talking about how huge One Piece is worldwide. And I will say, I was only aware of 2 anime, maybe 3. It's hard to remember now specifically what I knew before I knew it, right? Like, I had heard of One Piece. I had heard of one. This is one of only a couple I'd ever heard of. Another one I heard of was Death Note. People were always talking about Death Note. And I think the third one was Hunter x Hunter. It was one of the really big ones. See now, like I don't remember what I didn't know before, right? But I know for a fact I had heard of One Piece because I remember making like pieces of eight jokes. I had some vague ideas about pirates or something, and I would make pieces of eight jokes, and also every now and then I'd make a joke about it pertaining to chicken. Because you go into a chicken place here in the United States, you'd be like, "Can you get a 4-piece?" Right? I'd be like, "Nobody ever wants a 1-piece." Anyway, yeah, it was apparently it's huge. And I'm still trying to figure out why. Maybe he will. That's going to be the real value of these 2 essays. Figure out exactly what it is about this that appealed to people more than some of these other things. Because some of these other things have been so incredible. Hunter x Hunter, for instance. And I know Hunter x Hunter's big, right? But like maybe it's the fact that Hunter x Hunter has been finished. For instance, Fullmetal Alchemist has been finished, and it's one of the best things I've seen. That should be bigger, right? Because that's deep and involved. But like, I don't know. I mean, you could probably go down this rabbit hole for hours. But like, it is. It's sometimes you can't explain why was Star Wars so big when other movies just like it came out before it, right? Why was that? Why that one thing? There were movies because the first movie was kind of cheesy. Like, if you could put yourself in the 1970s mindset, it was cheesy. There, people were not watching that kind of thing as high entertainment back in 1977. So what? Why that instead of Battle Beyond the Stars or pick a sci-fi movie from 1975, right? Like, because they were there, they were coming out. What is it about Star Wars? Like, you can't really quantify that. Sometimes these things just lightning strikes, and it struck this apparently. He compared it to Simpsons mania of the early '90s. But also, and I know I'm early in this essay, but it seems almost like he's saying you should watch it because everybody watches it. Like, that's not an argument. He's saying that I don't know, but like I think the Simpsons comparison is a good one. Except there was nothing like the Simpsons on TV before it came on. There were other sci-fi movies, like I was saying, right? There was other anime, right? Like, so why this one thing? I don't think you can quantify it. With Simpsons, I think it's easier to quantify because there was nothing like it. It was completely original. Like, not complete. I mean, we had Flintstones, right? Like, so I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the combination of a sitcom, an animated sitcom in prime time in 1989 in the United States was unheard of. You didn't have that, right? And when you add to it that you had real, genuine, familial feelings for each other, the family loved each other, but then they also had the jokes, right? Like, for instance, if Family Guy had come first, I don't think it would have been a success. Family Guy was a fraction of what The Simpsons was because Simpsons had real heart. These people genuinely cared about each other, at least early on before jerk-ass Homer, right? But anyway, so like, the Simpsons mania is, because I remember living through that, and so that's probably a very apt comparison. Wow. That's crazy. He's saying One Piece is the third highest selling comic in world history, only behind Batman and Superman. My God. And it's beating out Spider-Man, which is hard to believe. That's crazy. I know I tend to be U.S. centric, right? So U.S. properties seem to be the biggest in my mind, but my God, man, that means it's a massive seller. 400 million units, he said. Jesus. He's saying the appeal of One Piece, why is this has such a broad appeal, is the simple premise of adventure. And nobody captures the simple premise of adventure the way pirates do. I just strongly disagree. You know how I feel about pirates. Of course, when they say pirates, they mean something different than people mean. Like, for instance, Western culture, when they say pirates, they mean it's something very bad, right? It can be cool to watch. Black Sails is a great series. Pirates of the Caribbean is a great movie. But the pirates themselves are awful, vile people. So Eastern culture doesn't seem to consider pirates the same thing. It's almost like a swashbuckling adventure. Kind of like their pirates seem to be more like Indiana Jones than Davy Jones, right? So that makes sense, I guess. But no, there's got to be more to it than just the appeal of adventure. I'll keep watching. Okay, he's saying, and this I think I do agree with. I think he may have just hit the nail on the head. He's saying Luffy has one motivation. He wants to find the One Piece and become king of the pirates. He has that motivation in chapter 1, and as of the time this came out, he has that motivation in chapter 833. His motivation has never changed. It's the only thing he cares about. It's his only motivation. It's all he wants to do. Now, he will save people. If there's injustice happening in front of him, he will do something about it. But his motivation is clean, it's simple, and it's unwavering. And he says that's unique in storytelling. I think he's right about that. I'm trying to think of any other character who's only had one motivation and they never waver from it. I think that's a very salient point. That's very interesting. Oh, they're talking about you can actually chart his route on a physical map. Interesting. I bet people have done that. I mean, it's way too early for me to do that. See, that's the kind of thing I'm into. I wonder if I can get an actual map. Let me know if you guys know a link to this. If I can get an actual map of the start of first of all, the world, where he started, and I can personally chart it myself rather than doing their like they've got a chart here, right? That would be see that's the kind of thing I would be into. Probably have to be a wall map because I think they're doing a lot here. They're giving me a bunch of spoilers about his future arc, so I'm trying not to pay too much attention to that. But like one thing that was interesting that I'm gonna have to keep an eye on these wanted posters that happen during the commercial breaks. Apparently, his number goes up the more he does. That's a fascinating premise, and I bet it's never mentioned or acknowledged. Like it's just something you either notice it or you don't notice it. He didn't even kind of he just showed a series of them, and when he was talking about the how world renowned Luffy's become, everybody knows him and shit. That's a very clever Easter egg. I would love to do a series where that's kind of in the background somehow. Like, just in other words, when I come across a really good idea, I just immediately just want to rip it off. Well, I was literally starting this video talking about you shouldn't steal from other people. Look, I'm a complicated person, but yeah, that would be really cool, man. Because like, the more he does, the more that number goes up. I just love that so much. He said that like what can first appear like a cartoonish, buffoonish character can become a portrait of life at its most tragic. Boy, does that really strike a chord with me. Because this show can be deceptive because of the art style. You mentioned the art style as well. The art style is very cartoony, right? And I think the art style throws me. It makes me not take this show very seriously. I think that's very deceptive. I think that what's going on here is kind of like the tears of a clown in a way. Like you have this facade. Oh, Robin Williams is a good example of this. You have this cartoonish facade. Robin Williams is the human embodiment of what we're talking about here. Cartoonish facade. We're laughing. We're enjoying our time with them. We don't realize how much pain and trauma is underneath. And then slowly the mask slides off, and then you see it. I think this show can be very deceptive. I think it's fooled me in that way. Like I don't take it seriously. To be honest with you, and I have a feeling that I should. You know what I'm saying? Like this is very compelling because think about it. Like you have somebody with like a just a happy mask on, bright clothes, cartoon nose, big cartoon feet, going around giggling. You have no idea if they're crying inside that mask or not, right? Like I just find that very compelling. He's talking about the use of flashbacks, which I've seen a little bit of. We got a dog flashback, right? Which that's probably the earliest usage of it I could think of. I guess Luffy's also got some flashbacks, but it's like Lost in that way. Those flashbacks have to be strategic. They have to be to a point, to a purpose, not just filling time. And so far from what I've seen, that this show uses them purposefully. He's going into the backstory of one of these characters. I don't want to know this at the time because he says tragic and it recontextualizes everything. So I'm actually not showing that right now. I'm not listening to that right now. I just saw apparently there's a pirate that looks like Elvis. Just a bunch of quick flashes, right? I will say this: like this author Odo, seems like a genius. Just absolutely incredible. Because yeah, this essay has definitely given me a newfound appreciation for this entire property. Because like, think about how much, because he's talking about how big the world is, how many characters there are, how fleshed out, how layered it is, how realistic everything is, and just how it feels like a real place. There's only a handful of authors who can pull this off. Stephen King occasionally, although he's a little lazy when it comes in this regard. He's a little lazy with this world building. The guy who did the Wheel of Time seems to be that. I haven't read those, but he seems to be that kind of person. His Dark Materials, I've only briefly experienced that with I've watched a couple episodes. I saw the original movie. But like that seems that way. George R. R. Martin, obviously. There are a few authors out there. Jim Butcher, and then the guy, whoever was that did the Shannonnar series. He also did Magic Kingdom for Sale. I can't remember his name, but those guys are about it, right? Like there's not many writers out here who have that deep and layered, that dense of world building. But a lot of anime writers do. And that's one of the things I love the most about anime is that like it's allowed me to experience more genius because there's only but so much genius in writing in novels. To a lesser extent, script writing, because you can't put that kind of time in the world building when you're script writing. But This gives me access to more geniuses, and you can never have too many creative geniuses in your life, in my opinion. Yeah, he's talking about the creativity of the author, no question. Like especially with like the character designs, the character design is just incredible. And I've only scratched the surface. They're showing quick flashes of various random characters, which agreed. Like that's the more I watch this, the more I'm going to be blown away by the creativity of the character designs, at least because like each one of them feels like its own person. Nobody so far has felt like a knockoff of another character we've had. Like unlike Star Wars, where you kind of get that feeling, especially with the droids. You know, this which makes sense in a real world context. Why would you have 1,000 different droid designs? You just they're functional. They should be functional, right? But from a creative standpoint, like just the fact that nobody ever feels like a knockoff of anybody else is a pretty big accomplishment. Well, that was very revealing. Very interesting. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the second essay. And you'll be able to see that, like, both of these will post at the same time. So you'll be able to see them together. Which I have a feeling from the way he's talking, he had quite a bit of time between his two essays.